So we covered the universal amp design that I've made, and now we're going to see it in Stonewood. Now, the main thing with any endurance build is make sure you're underbuilt. All my builds are underbuilt, and the reason I like Stonewood is because you can do all the amps very cheap, have wall art, do a completely unnecessary, complete castle village build, and still have room to do your traps. So this, we're going to start home base east, and we're going to kind of go around the map. So home base east, I kind of have my trap tunnel started right where this little nub is. And we start with the 3 rows of drop traps. Right at the top of this ridge is where I start the freeze traps. And you'll notice I have 2 rows here. And then I have it all lined with darts. This part is optional. You definitely don't have to have this. I just like to eat them. The other part, you don't want to have your tunnels all the way over here. Because what happens when you play war games, close quarters, they spawn all the way up here, and then all those traps are basically for waste. So your main thing is you kind of want to get them where they start pathing towards the amp. The other good thing about Stonewood is you don't need a lot to stop them. The only thing I have, so I have my 3 drop traps, I have the darts, and then all I have at the back end is 1 row of electric fields and 1 row of stealing zappers. And that's really all you need for Stonewood. They spawn in at a lesser power level. I do use power level 130 traps. That is for war games, because war games the husks boost and they kind of get higher to your power level. So then what I'll do is I'll walk over here to the west and we'll go through here. So for this northwest amp, this has always been a fun one for me. So they spawn down here. And as I said, I try to avoid doing over the spawn, just because close quarters they like to come up here. And that's kind of where the spawn starts. The spawn traps, at least. The 3 rows of drop traps. Now you'll see here that I only have the 1 row here. That's because they're not going to actually walk over this path. I just basically have this more for display purposes than anything. The main area is right over here. So you got your 3 rows of drop traps. And then 1 electric field, 1 zapper for Stonewood. And I even have a second zapper here. Darts, again, peppered kind of around the outskirts. I don't do any tunneling or anything like that. You got to kind of keep it all open. This path, they won't walk here generally, but if you don't have traps here, they will. So the main thing is just to kind of have it trapped out, but you'll notice that not a lot paths this way. But again, 3 drop traps, 1 electric field, and then some zappers just kind of lining the back end. So from here, we'll go a little bit further south and we'll hit up this amp. So they spawn down here, and again I don't have it fully set up. In close quarters they will come and spawn up over here, but I have my tire drops 3 rows deep, electric fields, darts kind of placed where I can have them that smashers won't go crazy for. And then here I have the 2 rows of zappers. You'll notice that I didn't really complete the freeze traps all along down here. They're not really needed. This is really all I've needed to go wave 30. And on this side, because everything is about their natural pathing, I don't block any routes that they want to take. And they'll come up here. 3 rows of drop traps, darts, electric field, and then the zappers. Now there is a spawn all the way up here, so I had to create a little bit of block off, and this is enough to make them just kind of come down this way into the amp. Now this amp, it comes from the west, and then husks also come from the south. And you'll notice I didn't do many of the south amps, so I didn't do the southwest amp, I didn't do the very south amp either. I did southeast amp all the way over there, and we'll cover that last, just because that's the one where all the war game stuff happens, hotspots, tornadoes, and that sort of thing. So here, they spawn down here. Again, I don't have anything over spawn. by not having anything overspawn, you do have to have these anti-airs. But it gives a chance if War Games happens and they spawn closer, the tires still do their stuff. So tires, 3 rows of tire traps. This one's tucked right in behind here, along with 1 electric field and 1 row of zappers. And again, the 1-1 is all you really need in Stonewood. Could you do more? Probably, but it would probably be overkill. We also have darts strategically placed where smashers aren't really going to go for them. See all the way back here too, and right to the base. Now their other natural path, when they're down here, is to come up this way. And you'll notice I have 4 drop traps, but it's really only 3 during their natural pathing. This one's more just a bonus in case they get piled up here. But they try to come up here and they get pushed by the 3 drop traps. Then we have a zapper right away, followed by a few rows of electrical fields, and that's really all I need to stop them from going up that way. Freeze traps at the very top, and then darts, again, strategically placed where smashers aren't really going to aggro towards them. And going towards the amp. And again, no amp design, everything here is more just cosmetic. So what we'll do is we'll go over to this amp now. And we're pretty much already done Stonewood. Stonewood does not have very many amps, which is why you can get away with all this overbuild. So, this amp right here, they like to spawn down over here. And I'll cover all their bases. So same sort of thing, we have the anti-airs because we're not covering their spawn. So lobbers like to come in and start throwing right away. So the anti-airs help with that. And when they path, they either path this way. So again, 3 rows of drop tires, electric field, and then the zapper, and then strategically placed darts. The freeze traps, I only have the 1 row here. And then on this side, they can kind of path up this way. So you'll see I have 1, 2, 3 rows of tire traps here, as well as down here. When they come up, it's 3 rows of tire traps that they have to hit. Then you have 1 electric field and 1 zapper before you hit the amp. It's very straightforward. Main thing is you want to make sure your tech numbers are high. You want your research maxed out on there as quickly as possible. And trap durability is always a thing you want to try to focus on. The other place they like to spawn is down here for this amp. Kind of all the way from over here, all the way up here. It's a very wide spawn. So the big trick is not to try to do spawn killing as much here. Let them path over. And again, War Games close quarters, they like to come a lot closer. So they'll come over here and they'll walk down this way. And you'll see I have the 3 rows of tire traps. The electric fields, here I have 2, just because I could fit it in. And then the zappers, with a few placed freeze traps. And again, the darts where smashers aren't going to aggro towards. Up here, they'll sometimes walk down. That's why I have a bunch of these zappers, electric fields, just to avoid anything walking down and kind of bypassing my tire trap tunnel. There is so much here that they'll just evaporate before they even get down. And then this side, because they do like to also path, when they spawn up over here, they'll like to path this way. And you'll see I have 3 drop traps, the electric field, and then zappers. And I got away with no floor freezes here. These dynamos kind of take their place. And just because there's a narrow passage, the dynamos have a nice damage hit for a small spread. So anytime I have a situation like this, I'll probably end up placing dynamos. And that is all the main amps. The bonus amp, the southeast amp that I selected, was this one up here on the hill. You'll notice that there's nothing up top here. That's because the tornado likes to stay up here and cause havoc. So anything you put up here basically goes away. The other thing, hotspots. Hotspots like to appear kind of all over the place here and take away your builds. The hotspots come over this direction for me, and some pepper down here. So you'll notice hotspot will pop up right here, and a hotspot will pop up right here. And I basically don't have anything around where the hotspots will go, so I lose as little spaces as possible. And a few come up over here. The other thing you'll see is so they spawn from the south and from the east. So from the south spawn, I have it a little bit, this one's going to be closer to spawn than I normally would have. That's just because you have to have nothing in the back end. But again, 3 drop traps. When they walk over here, they get an electric field, freeze, zapper. 1, 1, 3. It's kind of the staple for Stonewood, and you can get away with that very easily. Even in war games, when they get a higher tier, this trap system seems to be very sufficient at keeping them at bay. The other tunneling they like to do from this side is right here, and you'll notice it's a spread of 3 rows of drop traps the whole way through. If they happen to come all the way over here, I still do the 3 rows just to stop them from getting close. You'll see I have electric fields here, but I don't have any room for zappers anymore. So what I've done, I've added some dynamos to give and counteract the missing traps that I have in my formula, because the terrain just doesn't allow it here. Along with the hotspots and tornadoes, you gotta kind of work with what you got. So I use these dynamos to counteract it, and a few extra darts if they choose to go this path. The extra darts really help clear everything out. And then this side, I find the east here very easy to defend. So here's their spawn area. You can see I kind of cover a big range because I take all their natural pathings, and they path a lot of different ways here. So this way, you'll see, here I have 4 rows. It's just the way the height works. You definitely don't need 4. I even have a 5th one here. This is really just to avoid them coming this way at all. There's darts, I have dynamos, and I just kind of use this terrain because I don't have a lot of low ground. If you do low ground, they can kind of hop on roofs, and I try to avoid that where I can. So a lot of higher traps, but with no zappers, these dynamos really counteract that. On this side, when they walk up here, you got your 3 rows of drop traps, and then your zapper, and then 2 electric fields. Well, 3 electric fields. The zappers are kind of just placed here because I don't have any terrain up here that I can utilize properly. So you kind of have to make your own terrain sometimes, and I use this to lower it. Because I have lobbers that will sometimes like to throw, I do have these anti-airs just to kind of help with that. Again, darts, where smashers don't want to aggro. Anywhere smashers will aggro, I don't put darts. All it will do is cause them to break everything. And lastly, because they will sometimes come over here and path, I have this opened too. This one is less amount of traffic, so you'll notice that I just have more darts at the front, the freeze traps, hopefully to kill everything off, and then the 3 rows of tires, and then electric field right up here in case they happen to get past this far. And that is basically Stonewood in a nutshell. Pretty straightforward, pretty easy, especially if you use the formula that I've set up. It goes really smoothly. Thank you very much for watching. Make sure to give that thumbs up if you like what you saw. Feel free to comment and subscribe, and have a great day. Catch you again.